this is probably the most brutal story that I have ever read. I'm gonna put this right next to my trigger warning because I cannot stress this enough. The detail is extreme. I was a police officer, and I think I witnessed an actual curse. I used to be a police officer in a city in Virginia. There is one upscale neighborhood in our city with very nice homes. I was always told stories when I was a new officer that there was a doctor who used to live in one of those homes. The story goes, the doctor attempted to perform some type of operation on himself. He numbed his stomach area to make an incision on himself, but since he couldn't feel it, he accidentally cut far too deep and large and accidentally dismembered himself. When officers and paramedics arrived, he was found barely alive, holding his own intestines, and ultimately was unalived. Fast forward, I was assigned a call about a young female who was found dead by her older sister. When I arrive on scene, it is in the aforementioned nice neighborhood. When I exited my vehicle, I immediately had an uneasy feeling about the house. While nice on the outside, it just had bad energy surrounding it. As I approached the front porch, I noticed countless empty energy drink cans and a Ouija board on the front patio table. Everything about this house just felt wrong. When I was led inside, the family was obviously very distraught. I was told the deceased sister, we'll call her Emily, was in the basement. At this point, another officer had arrived also, and so he stayed upstairs with the family as I entered the basement. The basement was an unfinished and was fairly dark, minus 2 pull-string light bulbs, one on each side of the basement. The scene in the basement was similar to the front porch. Energy drink cans were everywhere, and another Ouija board was on the coffee table. Emily, who was 19, if I remember correctly, was hanging by her neck on the basement rafter. She had unalived herself with an exercise band and was swinging back and forth ever so slightly. Her face was blue, she was bloated and contorted into a horrible expression. Another officer helped me lift her to bring her down. Emily's family consisted of her mother and father and her older sister. Her parents stated that they had been trying to help her because all she ever did was drink the energy drinks to stay up all hours of the night playing on the Ouija board. Her sister gave a little more detail about it. Being sisters, she stated they were very close and told each other everything. Her older sister, Emily, indeed had been obsessed with the Ouija board, drinking energy drinks to stay up all night and talk to what she believed was her boyfriend, who was unalived. Her sister stated Emily had been saying that her boyfriend was begging for her to come join him in the afterlife, and so she believed that is why she did what she did. Now let me reiterate, this house felt wrong, everything felt bad, and I had a very uneasy, sick feeling being in the basement, and not because of the body. This wasn't my first. This is a call that really messed with me for a while. We really never got much more explanation, and as cops, you kind of just have to move on to the next call. 2 weeks later to the day, I get a call about a car accident with ejection. I head to the call, code 1, lights and sirens, and arrive to find a convertible BMW with the top down, which had experienced an obvious horrible crash and rollover. It was sitting on its wheels, and in the driver's seat was a woman who clearly had a broken neck, as her head was almost all the way turned around. Next to the vehicle, about 25 feet away, was a man who had been ejected. Keep in mind, this was a convertible, so he was ejected from the top of the car. He was missing the entire top of his, and there were pieces of his everywhere. I went to close off the scene with yellow tape. I walked about 75 yards away from the accident, where I found yet another large chunk of his. I'm not trying to be intentionally graphic, but I just want to paint the picture of how bad and violent this car accident was. Upon obtaining the man's ID, I read the information off to dispatch, and then another officer and I both realized the same thing at the same time. The two people were Emily's parents, who 2 weeks to the day just died in a terrible way. Breaking the news to the older sister was heart-wrenching. I kept in touch with her for a little while. She had inherited her parents' estate and all of the life insurance money, etc. She ended up selling off everything and buying a different house to try to start over and repair her broken life. However, it didn't end there. Around a month later, another officer was called to a pedestrian that was struck by a car while she was jogging in her neighborhood. And yes, you guessed it, it was the sister. She managed to survive several weeks in a coma, but ultimately succumbed to her injuries. If you're wondering why the story was about the doctor is relevant, the house that Emily unalived herself in was the same house the doctor lived in. I don't know what you guys think, but to me, it definitely seems like either that house is cursed or Emily opened up something bad. That was a few years ago now, and I am no longer a police officer. I moved a couple states away now. Twice, I have found 2 different Ouija board planchettes on the sidewalk when going to check my mail. I never touch them, and usually use a stick or something to push them into the storm drain. Oh my god. This came from Reddit. The username is weird-suggestion-152. Weird Suggestion 152. And I did get to have a chat with this man. He actually is an active writer. This story is true, but he does write some other stories that are things he just comes up with. I would encourage you to go find him on Reddit and just read them because they're fantastic. Additionally, on his Reddit, he does have some places where you can donate to him to help him continue writing. And I hope after listening to this story, all of you will consider doing so. Firstly, OP, I just want to extend my condolences to you as someone who had to endure such horrible sights and be the ones to be the first to call because you're the ones who protect our society in these communities. This is horrific and like mind altering. I really truly could not imagine doing the job that you have done. And I just thank you so much for the work that you put in and the things that you endured so that we don't have to. I am beyond grateful for you, and I am again so extremely sorry that these are things that you did have to witness. Absolutely believe you. I believe 100% that this was a curse, whether it was the type of curse where the doctor was like, whoever comes into my house again will meet my angry fate, like that's what I see in my head. But or if she unleashed something or whatever the case may be, 110% agree with you. Something came after this family and took them out in horrific ways, one by one by one. I would even go as far as to say that if they would have had any offspring within the time that they were still alive, one after the other, it would have gone after them. This is giving very Final Destination. The evil doctor is giving House of 1,000 Corpses, Dr. Satan. Like this is horrific, and I really truly hope that someone locked up this house and threw away the key. I just want to thank OP again for allowing me to read this story. He does typically charge for his narrations, but I was ever so lucky to not have to do so. So if you do find one of his stories and you do want to read it, if you think you have the voice for it, 100% go ahead and message him and he can give you his rates because I think it's certainly worth it. His stories are fantastic and beautifully written. With that, I bid you adieu. This was a horrendous story to read out loud. It broke my heart into a million pieces. Could not imagine it. I love you guys. Have a great day. Goodbye.